Michele Leigh. Hi, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am one of 5 children from an old-fashioned Italian Catholic family. Let me give you a little window into my mother's psychological makeup. She'd say stuff like this. I'd bring guys over for dinner. She'd say stuff like this at the dinner table. She'd go, you know, it would be nice if I could see one of my children get married before I die and they throw dirt on my box. Could you pass the gravy? She'd just throw that in. She would say stuff to me like, he's never going to marry you, he's never going to marry you. Why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? You've heard that expression, right? Then I think she'd make stuff up. Like when all my girlfriends were getting married, she'd say, you're like a little girl with your nose pressed up against the bakery glass window, seeing things you'll never have. So one night I get completely drunk, I go see my boyfriend, I got all these expressions in my head, I go, you're never going to marry me. Why would you buy the bakery when you could stick your nose in my muffins? She's like, what? Have you been talking to your mother? But then we did get engaged, and we're getting married. You'd think she'd be happy, right? You'd think she'd be happy we're planning a wedding. She wasn't happy, because when you're planning a wedding, you have to do stupid things like table numbering. Do you ever go to a wedding, you're at table number 27, and you see someone else's place card, they're at table number 2? And you're all annoyed? Is anyone else feeling this? I decided to remove the competitiveness. I thought of a theme. Cities in Italy. I was going to have the Florence table and the Venice table. Remove the competitiveness. I tell my mom, she goes, cities in Italy. Who gets Rome? Curious about that. And then we're going to have a reception on a boat, and we thought it'd be cool to have a ceremony on the boat, to actually get married on the boat. And after my mom had a stroke, she said to me, don't you think you should get married in the eyes of God? And I said, can't God see me on the boat? But apparently he couldn't. So we got married in church. When you get married in church, you gotta go see a priest. You go see a priest, right? He sits down, wants to see if you're compatible. I was dating my husband for 5 years. Priest wants to see if we're compatible. So he asks us questions like this. He goes, I want you two to sit down, do some soul searching, and I want you to find the one quality that annoys you the most about your partner. I turn to the love of my life. He doesn't even have to think about it. Straight face, he goes, Michele pees with the door open. I am completely mortified. And he would tell the priest, I started defending myself. I'm like, so why is peeing such a private thing anyway? Sometimes I'm in the bathtub. He comes in, closes the curtain, starts singing. La, 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 la. I'm like, hey, I know what you're doing. Just pee already. So they're both looking at me pretty much like you guys are looking at me with no sympathy for peeing with the door open. So I start flailing wildly, thinking of things and go, yeah. Well, he puts his deodorant on with one hand. This is the way my husband puts on deodorant. So how do you think this is weird? He does this. Like a monkey, he doesn't switch hands. I don't know what's going on. So the priest senses a little tension. He goes, let's switch paces here. Tell me about your first date. Why don't you tell me about your first date? Now, our first date story isn't real appropriate for a man of the cloth. This is our first date story. We go out to dinner, we're laughing, talking, having a good time. End of the night, we do the old goodnight kiss. First date, goodnight kiss. Next morning, I wake up, my face swells up, huge, just one side. I have no idea what's going on. I drive myself to the emergency room. I have a team of doctors examining my face. No one knows what's going on. Finally, one of the doctors goes to me, I think that you have the mumps. And I go, how can I have the mumps? And he's like, I don't know, we're going to take some blood, do some tests. In the meantime, I keep a low profile. You know, the mumps are highly, highly contagious. I go, oh man, I went out on a date last night. I kissed this guy goodnight. He looks real concerned. He goes, you need to call him and see if he's having any symptoms. And I said, like what? What kind of symptoms would he be having? He lowers his voice and he says, well, his balls will swell up like watermelons and he may become sterile. So here's the phone call I have to make after our first date. I have to go, hey, it's Michele. I had a great time at dinner last night. I want to thank you. Yeah, just curious. Here's a question. Are your balls at all swollen with some... I may have given you the mumps, and you're probably going to be sterile. Bye-bye. Thank you, yeah. But can you believe he continued dating me, and we ended up getting married? I had to marry him. I made him sterile, practically. And after we got married, we moved up to Connecticut. Way up north, horses, cows, drawing water from the well. We live up in the country in a little cottage in the woods. We do. And it's a different lifestyle. I've lived my whole life in New Jersey, now I'm living up in Connecticut, where these animals get into our garbage every night. I don't know what kind of animals, but when we first got there, I must say we weren't too bright. We put our garbage out, little paper bags, and the animals just laughed at us. They were in the woods like, look at these amateurs. They tore open the garbage. Then we got the garbage can with a lid. No good, lid off, garbage everywhere. Now we have a garbage can lid with a bungee cord. I'm not making this up, a bungee cord over the top. No good, they peeled up the sides, got the garbage out. So now we have garbage can with a lid, bungee cord going one way, bungee cord going the other way, hanging from a tree. Like we're freaking campers. I'm not kidding. One of us goes to dump the garbage, we got like rope me up in the woods like little Mary Sunshine planting flowers now, a little barrel of hemp flowers. The deer come, they eat all the heads, decapitate all the heads off of my flowers. So I plant them again. Again they come, like it's a feeding trough, and they're eating all the heads off the flowers. I'm just standing there looking at them. My neighbor from across the way yells at me 2 words. He goes, "Wolf, urine." And I go, "Pardon?" And he's holding up a little can. He goes, "Wolf, urine. We'll keep the deer away." And I go, "How do you get the wolf to pee in that little can?"